And we are live for the comeback stream of the Phoenix MMA podcast, joined yet again by Gordo Gambles. How are you doing, my friend?
Welcome back, my friend. It has not been the same without you. How you
Yeah, it's
been?
been a while. I've been good. Just needed to take the time off, just relax, enjoy the weather, enjoy everything opening back up
You
here
know
in
what?
Canada.
You picked the absolute best UFC card of all time to come back on, haven't you?
I really did. I looked at the card and I was like, oh, what a great one to come back to.
You know what, man? It's just it's beautiful. It's the card of the century.
And man, it always tends to be these cards that actually have the best fights. Somehow,
No,
some way, these
yeah. I
guys
was
just get
just
it.
I was just recording a video with my on my own channel. I'm just gonna plug it because it's on my place page and.
Think we lost him, guys. Oh, you back? You kind of cut out there. If you want to re-say that.
Oh, my back. Yeah, that's what I get for trying to plug my channel, man. No, it's one of those things where the fights with such low name recognition, they have so much more to fight for because they're not like the
Yeah.
superstar at the top. They're trying to wake their way up, so they're going to put on these better performances for us because they got nothing to lose. So I think honestly, these low name recognition cards are even better.
Yep. So we'll just get right into it. I'll just get the card up. All right. So we will start with the first fight on the card, which is going to be Orion Cochet taking on Philip Rowe. So Orion Cochet is 27 years old. He's 5'11" with a 71-inch reach. Phil Rowe is 31 years old, 6'3" with an 80-inch reach. So clear physical advantages for Rowe with 9 inches of reach and 4 inches of height. Orion is currently 7-0, making his UFC debut, and Phil Rowe is 7-3, dropping his UFC debut to Gabe Green. So starting off with this fight, I think I actually have a bet on this first fight. On the card, I feel like this is a pretty decently popular dog on the card in Phil Rowe, and that's what I have. I got a Phil Rowe at plus 150 for a unit, and quite frankly, I think this fight should be definitely lined closer to a pick'em. I capped it around 50-50. I just don't really see how you can justify Cochet at this price tag, right? So looking at Cochet, right, he's finished all of his wins, right? So is Rowe, so both are finishers. But looking through the tape on Cochet, nothing really that he's done has really impressed me. I mean, he's a decent wrestler. He puts on some decent pressure, but he's kind of slow. He wings these big punches. Like, he doesn't really set anything up with a jab. And I think the big reason why Cochet might be the favorite here is they think that, Phil Rowe doesn't really take damage that well. He kind of just curls up, just kind of accepts getting hit. His legs can get chopped up. But Cochet, to me, even though he puts on pressure and he kind of walks you down, he doesn't really do it that great from what I've seen. He doesn't like he doesn't like the difference between Cochet and Gabe Green is Gabe Green, when he closes the distance, he's throwing, right? He's like throwing combinations, a lot of combinations, quick hands. Cochet kind of just throws like one big shot and then kind of gets sucked into a clinch potentially, which is what happened on his Contender Series fight. And I think Phil Rowe, I don't think Phil Rowe's anything special, but I think he's the better striker. I think he's the more technical striker. I think at range, with his reach advantage and his height advantage, he doesn't use range that well, but if he is improving with that, I think if they just on the feet, I just think he's the better striker. I think he's more technical. I think he has a better jab. I just personally think he has the advantage on the feet. And if Cochet does go to that wrestling, I think Phil Rowe is decent on the ground. I think he's a brown belt. I'm not sure what belt he is, but
brown belt.
Brown belt. And he's been training with Gerald Mearshot, I saw on his Instagram. And I just think that he can potentially get sweeps. I mean, Cochet has been sweeped multiple times on the regional scene. So I think Phil Rowe can hold his own on the ground. I think he's got most of his wins by submission. So I think he could. I don't think he's a fish out of water on the ground. And I just think this fight is much closer to a pick'em. I am worried that Koshe, rushes in, hits him with a big bomb, right? Because he throws big punches, and Phil Rowe does have a tendency to kind of not take damage the best. But I think if Phil Rowe can kind of get moving, get on his bike, and just because I think he has the speed advantage and just kind of pop out that jab, mix in his own attacks, go forward. Because when he goes forward, he's a pretty good fighter. I mean, when he just doesn't do it enough, but when he does take that step forward, when he does attack you and put together his combinations, I think he's a pretty decent fighter. So I think this fight should be lined closer to a pick'em personally. And that's why I'm taking the shot on Rowe, right? He's got these advantages. 9 inches of reach is pretty big. And Koshe was just a big dog to Matt Dixon on the Contender Series, and he hasn't really fought anybody that good on the regional scenes. So I don't really see where we're getting the minus like 170, minus 180 on some books and stuff like that against a guy in Phil Rowe who isn't great by any means, but he had a competitive fight with Gabe Green. And I don't think Orion Koshe is a better fighter than Gabe Green. I think Gabe Green is kind of similar to Koshe, but he just does it better. I think he's got better cardio, and I think he's got better boxing. Obviously, Koshe presents the wrestling threat, which is what I'm honestly kind of worried about if he just like kind of lies on him. But like I said, I think Rowe can hold himself on the ground. And I just think this fight should be lined closer to a pick'em. It's an ugly fight. But I don't really see where you get Orion Koshe being such a big favorite compared to Phil Rowe. So yeah, I got one unit at plus 150. I got it like 2 or 3 days ago. Am I wrong? Am I right? What are your thoughts on this fight?
You know what, man? I'm happy to have you back because it's first fight since you've been back, and I agree with you already, my friend. I just think it's one of these things where I think the Koshe brother has potentials, but they're overhyped in my opinion. I think that we saw that in their first fight, and yeah, maybe I'm a bit salty because I did have money on the Koshe brother, but no, I completely agree. I think the big part for me here is Philip Rowe on the ground. I mean, he has some really really slick ground games. And you mentioned it. He's working with Mearshot. He's at Fusion over there. You got Glover over there as well. Vieira, like just some absolute killers on the ground, which he's been working on. And even on his old tape, you tape his old BJJ fights as well. And this man, he can submit people really really well. He's got an insane ground game. And the reason that the ground game is going to be so important in this fight is because I think that 9-inch reach advantage is going to force Kosuke to wrestle. It's going to force him to close the distance. And I think if they close the distance, Kosuke's so green. He makes so many mistakes in the ground. And you look at the guys he's fought. Okay, you look at Kosuke's record. I mean, okay, he's got a win over a guy with an 18-43 record. Like, what are you doing? He's got a wins over a guy who's 1-1, 1-3, 2-2. Okay, decent win over Dixon. But the thing is, I don't know how he can be that big of a favorite either. And I hate to style on you, but I locked in a bit better number than you. The line came out a bit, so sorry about that, my friend. I locked him in at plus 170 a long time ago. So
Good line.
I think I know, and the big thing for me is the ground game, and I saw that when I was taping Green versus Rowe when they fought a few months ago, and that was the thing that scared me was how lethal Rowe was on the ground. And you say he can't take damage well. I don't think I think I agree with that, but he does have a good chin. I think he like crumbles up, but he can take some shots. So maybe worst case scenario, Koski lands on him, he Rowe turtles up, and then they engage in a ground scramble, which I think Rowe has the advantage in, like I said. So either Rowe keeps him at range or he wins the mat. And I think that with so many path to victories, if you're giving me plus 170 on a guy like that, you lock it in every day.
Yeah, I favor him slightly, so I think the line's off. I completely agree with you. Like it's just I don't really see where he warrants to be 65% here. So good to see that we agree on the first play.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where I'll sweat it out for sure because Kosuke is very dangerous, and I think he's a smarter fighter as well. It's just he makes so many mistakes. He's so green that I'm ready to cash.
Me too. All right, so both of us on Phil Rowe. I think he's a pretty popular dog too, so hopefully we can start the night right. We'll move on to the next fight. We got Trevin Jones versus Ronnie Lawrence, and this has been a pretty debated fight I've seen on Twitter. A lot of guys on both sides of this one. So getting into the tail of the tape on this one. So Ronnie Lawrence is 29 years old, 5'8", with a 68-inch reach. Trevin Jones is 30 years old, 5'7", with a 70-inch reach. So pretty similar there. Ronnie Lawrence is 7-1. 7-1. 1-0 in the UFC. He's currently on a 4-fight win streak, and Trevin Jones is 13-6. He's 2-0 in the UFC on a 4-fight win streak as well. And I'll let you start off on this one, but before you do, it's just crazy to me how Trevin Jones is 2-0 in the UFC against Timur Valiev and Mario Bautista. It's crazy that this guy's getting it done. But what do you think about this particular matchup stylistically, and do you have a play?
That's the reason that this line is as close as it is because of those finishes he's able to get. But we got to remember that win against Valiev could have very easily not have been a win. He got pummeled in there the first round, and he capitalized. And good for him. Both his fights, he was losing until he wasn't. He was losing until he landed that blow. And I think that he's not going to get the same luck here. I'm on Ronnie Lawrence all day. The man is a machine. You know I love my wrestlers. You know I love my grapplers. And, man, this guy is relentless, isn't he? Like, it's one of these things where
20 takedowns in 2 fights.
Like, come on. He's an absolute wild man on the ground. We haven't seen Jones that much on the ground, but I think that he's not that much of a slouch in the feet either. Now, again, Lawrence is also one of those fighters who's green. He's not faced the best competition, but I think that he's got a lot to prove, and he's in it to win it, man. That ground game is lethal. He's going to be able to get those takedowns, tire out Jones. I think that he gets a late finish here, honestly. He tires out Jones. I don't think he'll be able to land that one-punch KO that Mario Bautista was unfortunate to be in the other hand of. But I'm on Lawrence all day. I think that on DraftKings, it's like a no-brainer because he gives me Merab vibe. No, okay, I can't say that. Well, he gives me the vibes, but you can't compare him to Merab is what I'm trying to say. But it's one of those guys who's going to score so high if he wins. And, yeah, like I'm on him all day. What do you got?
Man, oh man, oh man. That was kind of listening to how I would break down the fight. I'm also on Lawrence for very similar reasons to you. The thing with this fight is I taped this fight early when Lawrence was like minus 230 and Jones was like plus 170. And I honestly think that line is pretty accurate. And then it just got steamed down, and I was like, wow, that's crazy. Because personally, I think he should be near 70%. I think this is Ronnie Lawrence's fight to lose. I think he's definitely going to be the clear minute winner here, for sure. Again, I honestly think he's the better striker. I don't think Jones is that great of a striker. He doesn't really throw too much volume. He's more flat-footed, right? Ronnie's always moving side to side, back and forth. I'm assuming he's going to be the one putting on the pressure. He throws decent kicks. The only thing that worries me in this fight is Ronnie Lawrence doesn't really set up his kicks well. He kind of throws a bit of naked kicks, and his chin's like all over the place. So he could definitely get clipped. It's a possibility. But if he doesn't get clipped, I really find it hard to see how Trevin Jones wins this fight. I mean, Ronnie Lawrence is going to be the clear minute winner here. And actually going back and watching some of Trevin Jones's regional tape, I know this guy is a pretty good grappler. I think he's a purple belt or something like that. So, and he has a few decent amount of submissions on his resume, but he was taken down. I think it was his fight before the UFC. It was against against a Japanese guy or something like that. He got taken down easily. Like, he got rinsed. He got taken down multiple times with ease. He gave up the back, and it wasn't a good look. And yes, he came back. He rallied to win that fight. But to me, that was more of just him being more athletic, him being stronger, him being able to reverse the position and then get his own submission. And for Lawrence, I don't really think he's going to do that. I mean, Ronnie Lawrence is an animal. I mean, I think this is Ronnie Lawrence's fight all day. I think, like I said, I think he's going to be the clear minute winner. I think he's got very good cardio to keep it up. He's going to be rinsing and repeating, constantly trying to take down Trevin Jones, and he knows he's not going to strike too long with Trevin Jones. He's going to try to get those takedowns. And if outside of a knockout punch, I don't really see how you can make a case for Trevin Jones winning this fight. I don't really see how he wins a decision. So I don't know. I think Ronnie's going to bring it to him. I think he's going to get in his face. He's going to, try to get the fight to the ground and just get on his hips. I mean, his UFC opponents so far haven't had the greatest takedown defense, right? His Contender Series fight and his UFC guy. But I don't think Trevin Jones has great takedown defense at all, and I think Ronnie Lawrence is just going to be diving at those legs. I think he's a good grappler. I really do. I think he's a very strong grappler. I do think there is guys in the future that are going to expose him, but I really think that this line is a lot of recency bias, and with reason. I mean, the guy's beaten Valiev and the guy beat Bautista. Those are two very solid wins, right? But I just think that if like you said, he was losing those fights until he wasn't. So he's not winning minutes. He won't be winning minutes in this matchup. So again, outside of this KO punch, it's got to be Ronnie Lawrence all day. And how high do you cap that KO punch? Because I don't really think Trevin Jones. I think his power is honestly kind of overrated in the sense that it's not if he touches you, you die. I don't really think that's how it is. I think Ronnie Lawrence has a good chin. And again, this is bantamweight, right? So it's not like he's like some decorated finisher or anything like that. I mean, if I look at the guy, if I look at how many wins he has by KO, I don't even think it's that many, really.
Most of the wins are by decision on the regional scene.
Yeah, most of his wins are by decision, 4 submissions and 3 KOs, right? So, 4 KOs because the no contest didn't count. But I don't think he's like some exceptional power puncher. So I got Ronnie Lawrence all day here. I locked him in at -135. Pretty happy with that line for 1.75 units. Yeah, 1.75 units, -135 for Ronnie Lawrence. And I think he's got this. I think as long as he avoids that one punch knockout or even just like a combination, just the big bomb that Trevin Jones has been known for landing so far, which I think is overrated. I think Ronnie Lawrence has got this fight.
Now, on paper, you see Jones does have a black belt, which I forgot to correct.
Yeah, it's a black belt. Yeah, he does have a black belt.
The thing is, it's so hard to use that black belt if you are on your back. And I think that with the combination of Jones' takedown defense and Lawrence's relentlessness, he will be on his back. I don't think he's catching Ronnie in anything. I love Ronnie as well, except for I lost my bet today. I did exactly what I tweeted out a couple of days ago. I parlayed Lawrence with Amanda Nunes. I got -120 on it, and it's gone. With that cancellation, I withdrew. I got to figure out what angle I want to take on this one. I think money's still coming in on Jones, so I might just wait. I can get -150 right now. I'd like a bit better.
Yeah.
But yeah, -150 on Betway. But I am on Lawrence all day here. It just depends. I don't know how I want to play it yet.
Agreed. All right, two bets, both on the same side. Feels good. Now we'll move on to the next fight, which I don't have a bet on. I really don't want anything to do with this fight. We got Ashley Yoder taking on Jin Yu Fry. So Ashley Yoder, 33 years old, 5'7", 69-inch reach. Jin Yu Fry, 36 years old, 5'3", with a 65-inch reach. So age advantage to Yoder and size advantage to Yoder. Yoder is 8-7, 3-6 in the UFC, currently on a 1-fight losing streak, and Fry is 10-6, 1-2 in the UFC, currently on a 1-fight winning streak. So yeah, like I said, I don't really want anything to do with this fight. I think it's a classical women's MMA. Who knows what happens? If I had to pick a winner, I probably would say Fry, but that's with absolutely no confidence at all. Yoder obviously has the size advantage. The problem with Fry is her striking isn't that bad. Like, she lands some decent strikes, but she just doesn't throw. Like, she really just never throws any volume, any punches. So it's hard to say, oh, she's the better striker when she's going to be at the size disadvantage, when she's going to be at the volume disadvantage somehow, even though Yoder doesn't throw much either. So I think Fry's an okay wrestler. I don't think she's the greatest wrestler in the world. I think maybe she could get Ashley Yoder down. And I mean, if Ashley Yoder goes for a takedown, she's just going to fall off and end up on bottom anyways, because that's what she does in all of her fights. So it's honestly, I don't know. I capped it around 50-50 because I just don't know. I mean, I taped this fight last. I tried to avoid it, knowing I was not going to have a play on it, regardless of the line, because I knew it was going to be close. And yeah, I don't really got too much to say about this fight. Besides, I think I'm going to edge Fry, just because I do think her striking is better, and I do think she has a higher likelihood of ending up on top if we go to the grappling. But again, she's much smaller, so who knows? And I really don't care about this fight.
Man, Fry has so much potential, and that's what bothers me. Is she shows these flashes of greatness, and you look at her old fights in the regional scene, and she looks so good. I don't know if she's nervous or she's just I don't know what it is, but she doesn't perform on fight night. Because Ashley Yoder is someone who I just love to fade, man. She's
She's bad.
yeah, like respects to her. You get in the cage, you've been fighting a lot, you're good.
Yeah.
But if Frey is at the top of her game, it is her fight to win, and that's how I put it. And the thing is, you give me enough plus money as I would make a bet. That's how degenerate I'm feeling this week because it's such a crappy card. It's because she has like I think she has more skill. I think she's more talented. She's undersized here, which does bother her, but she's got some good physicality as well, and she could grind out Yoder. And the problem with Yoder, as you mentioned, is she just falls to her back. She gets dominated in grappling. She sucks as an offensive grappler. So who knows if Frey could be able to just grind her out for a nice little decision win, a very boring fight, you know? Uh, Yoder's definitely big for the weight class and is able to keep range well. And especially if Frey's not going to throw or not going to shoot for anything, that's going to pay off. But
Yeah.
I know Frey's training at Fortis right now. If that did change her mind, if that does help her fight more, if it does help her get more aggressive, she could win this fight. I think she can close the distance. But it's not one that I'm going to lay any money on. There's no way you can get me to. Actually, there's a way. You give me enough plus money, I will. But it's not one where I'm going to be very confident in. So, like you said, let's put our money on other things. I know there's a great great fights that you're going to be really excited to talk about coming up soon. So this is one that it's going to be a pass for me. I do edge Frey myself, which I've seen a lot of people on the other side. So I'm
Yeah.
happy we see eye to eye. But I would bet on this if I were you.
Yeah, like just last thing. The main thing is like even though I am favoring Fry, I just can't imagine my frustration just watching that fight and her not throwing punches, her not trying to take her down. It's just I can't imagine that kind of mental strain that's gonna be going through my head if I watch that fight with money on Fry. So I got bets on the first two fights. I don't need to have it on the first three. I'll let this one pass.
You know what? You give me plus 150 and I take it though. That's my line right there.
I think
take
I
plus
would too.
150.
Because I do favor,
Yeah.
and plus 150 is at least a 10% edge. So I would definitely take that, but I don't think it's gonna get there.
No, she's plus 130. It's at a couple places right now, and it's just
Yeah.
that's what I told myself. I knew that I'm not going to bet it, but I had to place like a just in case. How dumb do I have to be?
Yeah, fair enough. So we'll go to the next one. I'm actually really excited for this one. I think this one is going to be a really good fight. I mean, it's got Kai Kamaka in it, and Kai Kamaka's been in some great fights. All of his fights have been great so far in the UFC. So Kai Kamaka taking on Danny Chavez. So Kai Kamaka, 26 years old, 5'7", 69-inch reach. Danny Chavez, 34 years old, 5'8", 67-inch reach. So Kamaka's going to be 8 years younger, and height and reach-wise, they are similar. Chavez is going to have a 2-inch reach advantage. Currently in the UFC, Kai Kamaka is 1-2. No. Yes, Kai Kamaka is 1-2. He's currently on a 2-fight losing streak, and Danny Chavez is 1-1, currently on a 1-fight losing streak. What do you got for me for this fight?
I think this is going to be a very, very good fight. It's probably my third favorite on the card, which is saying something because it's not the best card. Anyways, I think that Kamaka is one of those guys who has a lot of flaws in his game, but he brings us such action-packed fights that here we go again. We're looking at it again. And this is one where I don't know if I really want to play a side on this one. I've been looking at Chavez a lot recently. I think I do edge Chavez in this fight, but it's not. I think I'm just going to sit back and enjoy it. I think that if you look at what... If you look at the striking perspective of this, Chavez does have some good movement. He's got some good striking, some good range, and he has never been knocked out. And he does also have some good takedown defense, but you look at Kamaka, and he's got a powerful right hand. And he is able to calf kick, which Chavez did struggle with in the past. So it's one of those things where I think Kamaka is very, very alive here because he is more. I think he is a more powerful striker. I think he is hungrier for a win here. But Chavez is able to rally. I mean, he's never been knocked out, and he doesn't slow down as badly as Kamaka does in the last few rounds. So I am edging Chavez. It's one of these ones where I might just sit back and enjoy and watch it because I think Kamaka could land a couple takedowns and just grind him out. Even though Chavez is fighting at MMA Masters with Covington, which tempting because if Chavez is able to defend the takedowns and just keep pumping out pumping up from range and piecing up Kamaka. Like Kamaka's been finished before recently too. Yeah, like, I'm all over the place here. I do slightly edge Chavez, but I don't think I'm going to play it. It's one of these fights where I'm going to enjoy. I hope Kamaka puts on another fight of the night for us. If he does win, I hope he doesn't get robbed like last time. But no, what do you think?
Yeah, I actually slightly lean Chavez too. I was really close to betting him. I taped this fight pretty early when he was like plus 125, but the way I just see this fight, I feel like it's so variant in the sense that just depending on how they come out, depending on what the game plan is, I feel like either fighter could look 55 to 60, and I'll be able to know right away. I feel like it's just one of those fights. Um, I think personally, I think the difference is that I think Kamaka is probably going to be the one that establishes the center of the octagon. I think he's the one that's going to be putting on more volume. He's the higher volume striker. I actually think that even though I do think his power is overrated, I do think Chavez does have the power edge. I think he hits harder, and I definitely think he'll have the speed advantage as well. Chavez has also proven to be more durable. Right, he's never been KO'd. Kamaka's been KO'd twice. I think Kamaka's probably going to have the slightly better cardio. I think his cardio is better. I think if Chavez tries to use his wrestling, I mean, Kamaka only has, I think it's like a 41% takedown defense. So I think if Chavez maybe tries to utilize some wrestling, get him to the ground, maybe he can have some success there. But Kamaka's also a pretty decent offensive wrestler. I don't think Chavez has been taken down yet in the UFC, or maybe like once, something like that. But I just think it's a very close fight. I think Kamaka's the more technical striker. I think he's the higher volume striker. But I do think if Chavez comes in with the right game plan and tries to mix in the wrestling and can put Kamaka on his back, try to get some decent ground and pound in, or maybe he just use, and the fact that he swings heavier shots, sometimes that sways the judges. I mean, who knows with the judges? I just feel like this fight is going to be a close fight. I think it's probably going to be a split decision, something along those lines. And honestly,
Sounds Kamaka-ish.
With the judging that we have going on now, any fight that has any potential to be a split decision, I am eerie of. But yeah, I'm gonna lean Chavez, but no strong confidence on the pick.
Yeah, I didn't really look at from the offensive wrestling of Chavez side because I do see Kamaka more as the offensive wrestler in this matchup, which is why I focus more on Chavez's takedown defense. I do know that Chavez is a black belt, and we saw Kai Kamaka get finished by Pierce by sub. So it's one of those things where there's so many different things that could happen. You never know. I don't have the best line on Chavez anymore, so it's not something I like that much. Is Kai Kamaka's short notice replacement, right?
Yes. I think so. Yeah.
So it's another one.
Yeah, because Chavez was supposed to fight Choi. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's another thing that's going for Chavez, man. So it's one of these ones where I'm close to betting it. I could be tempted very easily, but as of right now, I have nothing on it.
Fair enough. We'll go on to the next fight now. We got Chris Grutzmacher taking on Rafa Garcia. So
you're ready for this one. Just take it away. Take it away, man.
So Rafa Garcia is 26 years old, 5'7", 70-inch reach. Chris Grutzmacher's 35 years old, 5'8", 68-inch reach. So Grutzmacher's 9 years older, and size-wise, they're very similar. Both pretty, I think, undersized for the division. Rafa Garcia is currently 12-1, excuse me. 0-1 in the UFC. Lost his UFC debut against Nasrat. And Chris Grutzmacher is 14-4, 2-3. Currently on a one-fight losing streak, coming off that loss to Alexander Hernandez. And this is where I have pretty much my biggest bets of the card.
Of the year,
of the year, honestly. I think that's true. I think this might be my biggest bets of the year. Yeah. I got Rafa Garcia here. It's not really a surprise. I feel like a lot of people have Rafa Garcia, but I just feel like that he's really got this fight covered everywhere. Some things I want to point out is that Rafa Garcia obviously took his UFC debut against Nasrat Haqparast on short notice, put up a good fight. I'm not putting too much stock anymore into like these debut fighters coming in and like getting beat up and then saying, oh, they're probably gonna like win their next fight, that kind of narrative. But I feel like this is a completely different one because I feel not I think Rafa Garcia in his UFC debut looked better than he did in any of his regional fights. I think he showed that he's super durable. He showed that he could be competitive in a fight with a top 25 guy, and he took the first round off Nasrat on 2 of the judges' scorecards. I didn't have the round for him, but 2 of the judges did. So he's clearly showing that he can win some rounds against these top guys. And I just feel that what that fight showed me was that his cardio looked decent for being such a short notice fight. He showed me how tough he is, how durable he is. And I think a lot of people are talking about the fact that like Rafa Garcia and Chris Gruetzemacher have like a similar style in the sense that they're both brawlers. But the thing that I don't think I haven't seen a lot of people saying at all is like Rafa Garcia's last regional fights, in which people were saying that like he was getting like tagged up and things like that, is, if I'm not mistaken, those guys were much bigger than him, like much bigger than him. Like if I look at Humberto Bandenay, which was his last fight, like that guy was 5'11", so he has 4 inches of height on him there, and just like a long, lanky kind of boxer like that. Gonzalez was 5'10", right? So he had 3 inches on him there. And I think those were the two that I'm referring to the most. Chris Gruetzemacher is the same size as him, right? So he's not going to be fighting a guy that's bigger than him. And the thing with Chris Gruetzemacher is, even if they brawl, I think that Rafa Garcia 9 times out of 10 will fall second to Chris Gruetzemacher. I think Chris Gruetzemacher's chin last fight kind of got exposed. I mean, he gets hit a lot. He's been knocked out before that fight too, against Artem Lobov, and I think so he has more than 1 KO loss. And this guy, he doesn't know what head movement is. He doesn't move his head. He has terrible striking defense. He has terrible defensive tendencies to like duck his head into punches. This is a guy that's much slower, much less athletic. So Rafa Garcia is definitely going to be more quicker to landing his strikes. And then not even mentioning his wrestling and grappling upside. I mean, this guy's primarily a submission threat on his resume. Recently, he has been like kind of standing and going for knockouts as much. But I think that if he needs to go to the wrestling and the grappling, that he can. And I think he can sub Chris Gruetzemacher. I mean, Chris Gruetzemacher's takedown defense, I think, is better than the 62%. I think he's shown good sprawling, decent hips on takedown attempts. But once he gets to the ground, he really doesn't have much to offer. So I think he's pretty much a fish out of water compared to Rafa Garcia. And I just feel like Rafa Garcia is the much younger fighter, right? I feel like this is a fight where the UFC is literally setting him up to get a win because they liked what they saw of him in his debut. I mean, Chris Gruetzemacher, like, let's not forget, this guy's had multiple surgeries, ACL surgeries. He has 1 win since 2015, right? And that's beating up Joe Lozon. And he didn't knock out Joe Lozon, guys. He did not knock out Joe Lozon. That was a doctor stoppage. And Joe Lozon literally was just putting his head there to be hit. Like, he was literally just in a clinch, holding each other and just getting hit. Like, he offered no resistance. He offered no striking. So I think that while Rafa Garcia is not the most technical striker in the world, is not going to piece him up like Alexander Hernandez did and not going to move around as quick as Alexander Hernandez, I think he's going to be the one going forward, or they're going to meet in the middle. And I think that they're both going to swing big shots, and Garcia's durability is much, much stronger, in my opinion. He's the more athletic guy. He's the faster guy. He's got the better hands, in my opinion. I think he's got the better striking personally. And then not to mention his wrestling upside, his grappling upside if he wants to take it to the mat and get a submission. So, I mean, he's got a lot of submissions by rear naked choke. Chris Gruetzemacher has 2 of his 3 losses by submission by rear naked choke. Chris Gruetzemacher's also been finished in each one of his losses. And just the fact that he came off a 2-year layoff to fight Alexander Hernandez, like, he looked awful in that fight. I get Alexander Hernandez is a better fighter than Rafa Garcia and is a really tough match for Chris Gruetzemacher stylistically, but just the way he was fighting was very poor. Like, he just, again, no head movement, not good striking defense. And I just feel that the only way Chris Gruetzemacher can kind of win this fight is if Rafa Garcia maybe tires out, and Chris Gruetzemacher just lands more punches in the pocket. But I just think that Rafa Garcia is going to get him out of there. I think he's going to get him out of there in the first couple of rounds. So I have 4 units at minus 250 on Rafa Garcia, and I also have 0.6 units on him inside the distance at plus 162, I think. So yeah, I got a lot on Rafa Garcia. I need him to get it done for a chance at a successful night. And I think he will. I mean, a lot of people on Rafa Garcia. Pretty much no one is on Chris, which is a little bit concerning because usually those guys tend to shit the bed. But I just think that if I don't think Chris Gruetzemacher is UFC level anymore. I think these surgeries, the age, he's not improving. Right, he's 35 years old. We know what we're going to get from Chris Gruetzemacher. Rafa Garcia is a young guy. He's going to be constantly improving. He has a full camp this time, so his cardio should be better than it was in the Nasrat fight. I don't think his cardio was that bad in the Nasrat fight. And again, the fact that he landed 23% of his strikes against Nasrat, to me, really isn't, oh, this guy has no accuracy, because Nasrat Haqparast has a 74% striking defense in the UFC. 74%. So, and he has quite a decent amount of fights. So I think this is Rafa Garcia all day. I think 80% minus 400 is where I capped him, and I think that's completely fair. I just don't really see how Chris Gruetzemacher wins this fight, because I don't see him knocking out Rafa Garcia. I think Rafa Garcia is extremely durable, great chin. So it's going to have to be some gritty decision in which it's a close fight. But I just think that Rafa Garcia is going to look better optically. I think he's going to land the harder punches. And again, the wrestling, grappling upside to secure rounds. So I got Rafa Garcia all day here.
Yeah, you touched on everything, really. It's one of those things where you look at the records and you see, oh, been finished in every fight, oh, been submitted in half of those. Oh, Garcia has all these submission wins. And it's just like, it looks like an absolute setup and a half. Especially that last, which was a really, really bad knockout to Hernandez last time out. Like that was brutal. And just looks like a complete setup for Garcia. Garcia looked much better than everyone expected to against Nasrat. And the main reason he was striking so much with Nasrat was because of Nasrat's takedown defense. I mean, I think that Garcia's going to have a much easier time taking out Chris. It's going to be much easier to get him to the mat. And I think once it gets there, Garcia just levels above Chris. And I think this is going to be a ground victory, in my opinion. I do think Rafa does even have the edge in the feet. I do give him the huge chin advantage. The guy's chin is insane. And we know where Chris is at this point. So I think that every little aspect we look at, it's got Rafa written all over it. I mean, I do see a submission victory, so I'm waiting for, I haven't really locked that in yet. I have locked in the inside the distance play with you as well. I did have a Garcia parlay with Nunes. So, twice.
So unfortunate.
Seems repetitive. But so right now I just have the unit on him at plus 150 to finish, and I think he finishes very easily. I could see him finishing round one with the chin, with the sub. There's so many paths to victory here, and I edge Garcia in so many different areas. So he's my favorite play of the week as well. I didn't go guns a-blazing the same way you did, but I do respect it. Absolutely love it. And yeah, I think that this is his fight all day.
Yeah, I just think that knockout loss, like, that was bad. Like, he didn't look good, and he was just bad. I think I think maybe the durability's going, and Rafa swings big punches. And like when Rafa gets in like tough fights, like against Humberto Blendon, I think, he shoots. It's not like he's not going to shoot. And I think he can have some success with the wrestling. I don't think he's the greatest wrestler in the world, but I think that he can land one. And I think if he does land one, then Chris isn't going to get back up. Like, he doesn't really have much off his back at all, really. So yeah, this looks like a setup fight to me. There's no way the UFC wants a 35-year-old Chris Gruetzemacher who wants to reach. Oh, we're good? Okay.
Yeah, we're back. I don't know what's going on, man.
Yeah.
It's okay.
So yeah, this looks like a real setup fight to me. It's just, I think Rafa Garcia should win this fight. I think he's going to win this fight. So let's go, Rafa. So we'll move on to the next fight. This is a really interesting fight that I'm actually kind of really excited for. It's just a weird one. But we got two Dana White Contender Series alums in Colin Anglin and Melsik Bagdasaryan. So Colin Anglin is 28 years old, 5'9", 71 inch reach. Melsik is 29 years old, 5'9", 70 inch reach. So very similar in the size department. Both making their UFC debut. Colin Anglin's 8-1. Melsik is 5-1. Colin's on a 7-fight win streak. Melsik's on a 4-fight winning streak. So you touch on me what you got going for this fight. I think it's a really interesting fight, and I'm excited for it. So what do you got in this one?
Bro, props to you for saying, hey, man, I can't say, what is it, Bagdasaryan? Okay, no, you killed that, bro. Anyways.
Bagdasaryan, yeah.
Two, like you said, Dana White Contender Series alum. And the thing we see with those alums is the big problem they have is low level of competition, and both of these fighters have such low level of competition.
Yeah.
You got Melsick, who is just KO machine before going to his Dana White Contender Series fight. I mean, he's so aggressive. He's always in your face, and he loves putting people in their back heels. So I think that he's one of these fighters who's dangerous and definitely live. But the problem we had was we didn't see him out of the first round until he did get to the Dana White Contender Series fight, where he did go a hard 15 minutes. Prop to him there. But I do think that Anglin's no joke here to either. I think he's got the advantage in the clinch. I know Belsic has a ton of kickboxing fights, so it looks like it's going to be a kickboxer versus, I'm not going to call him grappler, but grinder in this fight here. And if I think Anglin's going to try to make this into more of a MMA fight, a kickboxing fight, because I think if he tries to stand and kickbox with Belsic, it won't go very well. I do actually have one of my favorite bets of the week. This one, and I bet this fight to not go the distance at plus 110. Was it plus 110? I think I'm plus 105. I got plus money, and it's not plus money anymore, so that's why I'm happy. But it's one of these things where I think that Melsick is definitely live early. He swarms like crazy. He's super aggressive, but I wouldn't say no to Anglin finishing late. I mean, I think he's good as well. I do think that these are both guys that have flaws and that will be exposed in future fights. But in this competition, I just see I do like Melsick, honestly, if I'm being honest, for a first round flurry, just to completely pressure Anglin. And if Anglin wants to take this to the ground, you never know how that's going to go either. So what do you got? What do you got in this fight?
Yeah, this is an interesting fight. I think that Melsick is just one of the. I think he's probably the hardest guy to cap on the roster. I mean, right, 4 fights before the Contender Series, or 5 fights. All 4 of his wins came within 62 seconds combined, and then he loses the other one in the first round too, and then comes on the Dana White Contender Series against Bazooka, against the guy that, or something like that, and then can't put him out. The guy takes his strikes, and he slows down. I was impressed in the fact that he was still throwing. Right, he won that 3rd round, but he was definitely fatiguing. I mean, but the thing with Melsick is this guy is a legit striker. He is a very good striker. You can tell by the power he generates in his strikes. He's diverse. He's got kicks. He's got punches. That straight left is money. His left kicks are very good as well. Good front body kick as well. Good knees and elbows in the clinch, and he's just super explosive and powerful. And I think maybe going the distance against Dennis Bazooka maybe is good for him. Maybe he learned, that he needed to work on his cardio, getting some experience into those later rounds, and he dug deep and he won that fight, right? But on the other hand, we got Colin Anglin, who's a guy that got dominated in his first round against Naimov, right? Dominated in his first round, so I think we can expect that Melsick's going to win the first round and potentially put him out in the first round. But Anglin, he's a decent fighter. He's solid, but he doesn't excel anywhere, right? He's got a lot of movement, lots of movement, got a good feints. He throws a lot of kicks to set up his things. He's got a good jab and tinies, very explosive as well, but he's hittable, right? He's definitely hittable. His hands are low. And the overhand shot for Naimov was landing all day long. So I think Melsick's going to have a lot of success with that as well. Something that I did want to touch on was that the striking accuracy of Naimov round by round. In the first round, he was landing at a 63% clip, then a 45% clip, and then a 2% clip. So his striking defense isn't good when his opponents are fresh. So I think the first round is going to be very dicey for anyone betting Colin Anglin. I mean, if you're going to bet Colin Anglin, honestly, I think he's a live bet spot for sure. I don't think anyone should bet him pre-fight because I think it's a very low percentage chance he wins the first round. But if he gets it out, but if he's got good cardio himself, right? Like he digs deep. So if Melsick gasses, I think that Colin Anglin can kind of put it on him. And this is just an interesting fight because I think if Melsick hasn't made any improvements, I think it's either Melsick KO round 1 or I think Colin Anglin takes over in rounds 2 and 3. However, I think Melsick probably has made some improvements to his cardio. I think he may not come out as explosive. So he has more gas for future rounds, but I'd like your fight doesn't go to decision bet. I mean, I actually might hop on that because I have it capped at 55%. So
What line can you get on it now?
Let me check. Colin Anglin, Melsick. Fight doesn't go to decision is like minus 105 ish, minus 110, thing like that. Under's like plus money still, but I always like to opt for the doesn't go. But I think that's a decent bet. I may look into it. The only thing that does kind of scare me is that Colin England does have a good chin. I mean, the guy can take strikes, and the guy isn't really doesn't come off to me as too much of a finisher. So it's if it gets out of the first round, because I personally my prediction is going to be Melsick by first round KO. I think Colin England's super hittable, and I don't think he's going to have felt the power of a guy like Melsick. But I feel maybe England like grinds on him, maybe tries to wrestle him, just outlands him over the course of the last 10 minutes. So I like your bet. I think it does finish inside the distance because I think Melsick gets him out of there in round one. But if it gets out of round one, I think I would favor the fight to probably go the distance. Because Melsick looks like he's got a decent chin too. He ate some pretty decent shots from Dennis, but just a really interesting fight. It was pretty hard for me to cap because these guys are just so. It's always hard to cap these Dana White guys because they look super good and then they get into the UFC and they get like a rude awakening. But now we got two of them going against each other, one of which doesn't have much cage time at all. So I'm personally, from a moneyline perspective, I want nothing to do with the fight. I'm going to favor Melsick because, again, I just think that his striking is very legit. And I think this guy, if he gets better cardio, I think this guy can be a problem. So I am going to favor him. He's only 29. He's probably made some improvements to his cardio. And I'm going to go with Melsick to get the dub.
Yeah, I think I'm going to take him early as well. I'm hoping for violence here. I'm hoping for a nice fight. I do agree. I think it's Melsick early, and I know what you're saying about England have a good chin, but it's all relative to who you're fighting, right? And both
I
guys have
agree.
not fought the best competition. I do think that England's path to victory is going to be wrestling heavy and clinch heavy and all this stuff because you don't want to give a kickboxer with the pedigree of Melsick the same space. I think as if Anglin gets on the offensive, we haven't really seen Melsick on the defensive too much because he is that offensive fighter who finishes 4 fights in 60 seconds, right? So I don't know. I'm excited for it. It's gonna be a good one.
Yep, excited for it too. So we'll move on to the next fight. We got Nico Montano taking on Yanan Wu. So tail of the tape for this one, we got Nico Montano, who is 32 years old, 5'5", with a 65-inch reach. Yanan Wu is 25 years old, 5'8", with a 66-inch reach. So Wu is going to be the much younger fighter, and she's going to be the bigger fighter in there. In terms of the UFC so far, Nico Montano is 1-1. She's 4-3 overall, 1-1, currently on a 1-fight losing streak. And Yanan Wu is 11-4, 1-3 in the UFC, currently on a 2-fight losing streak. And this is an interesting fight, right? I see a lot of people on Montano, and I get it, right? Like she should be better everywhere here. I mean, she's a pretty decent fighter. I mean, like she's really solid everywhere. She's got good grappling. Her striking is decent, and Wu really hasn't been all that great. Amazing, but I didn't really look too much into the tape on this one because I really don't want to lay like minus 250, minus like 240 on Montano when she rarely ever fights. And I just and a women's MMA minus 200, minus 250 is just not what I usually like to do. But I do think that if she does utilize the grappling, that she's going to look like minus like 400, minus 500 higher. I think she's the much better grappler. She's got pretty solid top control. Very strong as well. On the feet, I think Wu is an okay striker. I think on the feet it can be relatively competitive. But I do think the line. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong here, but I think the line may be a little bit wide. I think Wu, she's still young. I mean, I haven't hated what I've seen with her. I mean, the biggest tell about her grappling was against Rosa at the beginning, which was really bad, but it looked like she improved it. I mean, it wasn't great against Edwards, but it looked better. It looked like she was kind of improving to me, at least. But I think Montano's just the better fighter. I think she's faced the overall better competition. And even by looking at the fights, she's had schedules that have been canceled, right? Like Julia Avila. Let me just check this because I know she's had some like killer lined up in her fights before they've been canceled. She had Macy Chiasson, Carol Rosa, Sarah McMahon, Valentina Shevchenko, right? So she's fighting these. She was scheduled to fight these much better fighters. And I just think she's the better fighter here. I think she should get it done, but I don't really want to lay that chalk on her. What are your thoughts?
Oh, uh, yeah, man. I'm with you here. I think I'm really mad I missed out the -175 in Montano. I think it's her
Yeah,
fight all day. I do agree she's got the huge advantage on the ground, and that's what I want to see in my fighter here, especially because we saw Edwards do what she did to Wu, and I think that Montano's levels above Wu. So I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna take Montano here. I haven't played it yet. I was debating on parlaying it with being that my parlay picks with Garcia, but I haven't played it yet. It is women's MMA, so I don't really want to lay a parlay with it. So I'll still have to see, man.
sounds good. Sounds good. Moving on to the next one, we got Brian Barberena taking on Jason Witt. So Brian Barberena, 32 years old, 6 feet, 72 inch reach. Jason Witt, 34 years old, 5'10", 70 inch reach. So Barberena is going to be 2 years younger, 2 inches of height, 2 inch reach advantage. In the UFC, overall Brian Barberena is 15-7, 6-5 in the UFC on a 1-fight winning streak. Jason Witt 18-7, 1-2 in the UFC, currently on a 1-fight losing streak. Talk to me with this one.
How about you take this one to start? I gotta post an MLB lineup real quick.
Sounds good. So obviously the first thing we think of when we think of Jason Witt is that he has the worst chin in the UFC, right? Like the guy can't really take a punch. He's not very durable at all. His only UFC win was against a 37-year-old Cole Williams, who didn't have any UFC wins and really wasn't UFC caliber. Doesn't really have a ground game. So with that being said, I do think Barberena is the rightful favorite. I capped him around 70%. I think the line is accurate where it is now. I don't really see any value on either side because Barberena is not really the greatest fighter in the world. I think he's a pretty good fighter, but the fact he's coming off this like life-threatening surgery potentially that forced him out of his November fight, it looked pretty bad, reading into it. But he says he feels great. He's ready to go. And like the biggest things with Barber, he's faced like way better competition. I mean, this guy's in there with like all the best guys in the division, right? He was 7 seconds away from beating Vicente Luque. I think he's a decent striker. I think he's a pretty good defensive grappler. I think he defends a lot of takedowns. He's been defending a lot of takedowns. But the reason that because when I first thought about the fight, I was like, okay, Barberena inside the distance, easy bet. But Barberena is not really that kind of. I know he's got some decent knockouts. He has quite a few knockouts on his resume, but I just don't really think of him as like as a power guy. And I don't think Jason Witt is going to want to stand with Brian Barberena for long. So I think it could go very similar to the Ivy fight, right, where he's just trying to take him down for the duration of the fight, and potentially, Barberena's spending a lot of minutes trying to defend takedowns and not really getting his striking going. Another thing with Barberena is that sometimes he just looks hesitant in there, right? Like he doesn't look like he's in there to finish fights. He's kind of just slow paced, which is not the best tell if you want to bet a guy inside the distance. But Witt has such bad durability that it probably makes sense. And I mean, when Barberena fought a guy like Jake Ellenberger, who is probably the most similar guy to Jason Witt and his opponents, I mean, he knocked him out in the first round. So, I mean, Barberena inside the distance probably has the most value. But you just can't bet Jason Witt at these odds. I mean, like it's a decent odds, but like the guy's chin is just so bad that you're going to have to rely on him getting takedowns and getting control time on the mat. And Barberena has shown that he's got pretty good takedown defense. So besides that, I think Witt's actually his striking's okay. I think he throws some decent strikes. I mean, but his chin is just so bad that that's really all it comes down to for me.
You know what? You hit the nail on the head with this one. It's one of these things where one thing is keeping me away from it. It is just that chin. Jason Witt, I think, you give him a good chin, and he has so much potential in the UFC. I think he's got some decent strikes.
I think he's decent.
Very good ground game. I mean, he put it on. I mean, he fought a guy in Cole Williams who isn't UFC caliber, but he put on a show. He absolutely dominated there. So I think that Barberena is definitely the side here. I think that it is a bit wild that he is the most expensive player on DraftKings and it is this wide. But you can't ignore the fact that if Barberena wins, it'll probably be a first round knockout because of Witt's chin. What does scare me off of Barberena though is his injuries. He's been through so many wars, so many surgeries just because of what's happened. And whereas
Yeah.
it's Barberena's, he's the side all day. It's you never know what you're gonna get with him because what shape he's gonna be in. If he's gonna be able to take damage himself, he's gonna be able to take him down. It's just, you're right though. It's such a different level of competition from what he's used to, and that's another thing, man. I think that Barberena inside the distance, even round one, is so live. But
Yeah.
I actually don't mind Jason Witt as a person, and his nickname's kind of badass. So I'm just gonna Vanilla Gorilla is kind of funny. So I am gonna pick Barberena. I do think he finished this fight, especially with the chin. But I don't know if I want to lay it. I don't know if I want to lay the inside the distance prop and be scared if Jason Witt finally develops a chin, right? Because
Marcin Prochnio type guy.
exactly, bro. That's exactly what I'm worried about. But I don't think that happens. I think it's Barberena all day. Witt is a great DraftKings punt play. But other than that, Barberena inside the distance, that's the line all day.
Agreed. So we'll move on to the next one here. We got Ryan Benoit taking on Zaruk Adashev. So Ryan Benoit, 31 years old, 5'5". Don't actually have his reach because I actually didn't tape this fight because I remember taping it when it previously got made and then not wanting to bet it because I thought the line was accurate and seeing that the line is the exact same. Now it's just I didn't really bother taping it, so I'm going to let you take this one away. But I do favor Benoit. But I'll let you carry this one.
Bro, where was I? Like what? Come on. I think it was the last video we did together. We were taping this fight together. What was I saying? My favorite bet of the week was Mr. Ryan Benoit. Things have changed. Okay? Things have changed. He missed weight horribly, and that is not something you want to see. I think that Benoit is the side here. I think that he is better all around, faced better competition. He's got that grappling upside. It's a southpaw versus orthodox fight, and all of his damage comes from the side that's going to benefit him here. I think that people are really just underestimating him because he's lost to fighters like Tim Elliott and all that stuff. And I think that Zaruk Adashev, despite having such a low record, is a talented prospect. He does have so many kickboxing fights and is good as well. But I think that Ryan Benoit's got takedown upside. I think he's got some power in his hands that Zaruk doesn't have. And I think that is his Ryan Benoit's fight to lose. But that is only if he makes it to the scale tomorrow. And that is it. I will tell you right now, if he looks good in the scale tomorrow, if he looks fresh, if he looks lean, if he looks like he's ready to go, I will lay money on him. I will pay the price tag, and I will have a bet on Ryan Benoit. But as it stands right now, I can't feel confident in a fighter who passed out in the scale, who had such a bad weight cut that he was out for such a long time. It's just scaring me. I know how taxing weight cuts are, how they can affect your chin, your IQ, your thought process. So I'm picking Ryan Benoit. I love Ryan Benoit in a completely healthy fight.
Yeah, this could be a decent buy down spot on Benoit, right? Because I mean, he's faced a lot of tough guys, and his record could be much better than it is, right? I know we were talking about that last time when a lot of the fights he lost, he potentially could have won. So minus 130, I mean, could be a decent spot if he looks good on the scales. But we'll move on to the next one. So this is actually one of the fights that is now we got a replacement in Jared Gooden taking on Nicholas Stolze. So Nicholas Stolze is 28 years old, 6'1", 74-inch reach. Jared Gooden's 27 years old, 6 foot with a 77-inch reach. Stolze is 12-4, 0-1 in the UFC. Dropped his UFC debut to Ramazan Ameev, and Jared Gooden is 17-6. He's currently 0-2 in the UFC. So this fight is an interesting one. I think it has potential to be a pretty decent fight, but not one that I have much interest betting on. I think Stoltz is actually a pretty decent fighter. I think he's got a lot of decent feints, a lot of good movement. Against Lazez, I did have Lazez, but I did think Stolze could have potentially been live. Because he's a decent fighter. I mean, he throws some good low kicks. In this fight, I definitely think he's going to have the speed advantage, and I think he's the more technical striker than Gooden. And the thing with Stolze is, in a lot of his fights, people are trying to take him down. A lot of people are trying to take him down, put him on his back. And I don't think that's going to be the case in this fight. I don't really think Jared Gooden's going to go to the wrestling too much in this fight. I think it'll be a stand-up fight, especially considering the fact that he's taking it on short notice. Maybe his gas tank won't hold up in a wrestling-heavy approach. So I think this fight stays on the feet. And just quite frankly, I just think Nicholas Stolze is the better striker. I think he has the more diverse skill set. I think he mixes and kicks better. I think his boxing is a little bit better. I do think Jared Gooden probably has the power advantage, but I think Stolze, hey, he has a lot of good movements, a lot of good feints, good kicks. And I think he's just the better fighter here than Jared Gooden. I think the line, Stolze actually opened up as the dog, which is crazy. I would have definitely smashed that if I would have access to the book. But now he's sitting around like minus in the 200 range. And honestly, I can't really hate it. I mean, I just think he's the better fighter here. Jared Gooden's like an okay prospect. But, he dropped his first 2 UFC fights. Getting outshucked by Abubakar Nurmagomedov, like he didn't even have to use the grappling, is a pretty bad look, honestly. Not hating on Abubakar, but Jared Gooden should have definitely had a better performance on the feet against him. So I think Stolze is the better fighter. I think he's the more well-rounded fighter, and I'm going to pick him to win this fight, but no interest betting wise.
Yeah, that plus 125 line is absolutely insane on Stolze. That makes me just wonder, man. Like, what do they know that we don't?
Yeah,
what do they know that we don't?
That was insane.
I'm with you. Yeah, it was. I'm sad I missed out on it, but at the same time, I'm with you in this fight. I think this is Stolze all day. Stolze is the go-to guy on DraftKings this week. I know you're not a big DraftKings guy, so if
I'm getting into it,
on Twitter earlier. There we go. You let me know when you're into it, and we'll host a competition in your honor, maybe next week for the next UFC card.
Let's do it.
No, it's one of these things where he is 7K and he is favored by like minus 200, right? So we must have guy on DraftKings, but getting to the betting side of it, he is better all around. Gooden's really lackluster to me, and maybe he has some things he hasn't shown, but I think that if you look at just based off tape and tape exclusively, Stolze is better. I think he has better losses on his resume in a weird way. I think the loss against Ameev is nothing you can really look into. He didn't look horrible in that fight either, in my opinion.
No, he looked good, yeah.
And it's one of those things where I think he has a lot more potential in the UFC, and I think that especially with everything on his side here, he's had the full training camp. He's facing guys for replacement.
Sure.
He was training for a guy in his head, so I think it's way more dangerous than Gooden. So I'd Stolze all day here, my friend.
Agreed. So we will move on to the next fight. We got Cheyenne Bays taking on Gloria DePaula. So Cheyenne Bays is 26 years old, 5'3", 63 inch reach. DePaula is also 26 years old, 5'5", 67 inch reach. So 2 inches of height, 4 inches of reach to Gloria. Both women dropped their UFC debuts. Cheyenne Bays is 5-2. Gloria DePaula is 5-3. Both 0-1 in the UFC. And I'm gonna let you start with this one. How do you see this fight going down?
Cheyenne Bays did not drop her first fight in the UFC. She got handled like a little kid on a playground, okay? She absolutely got just... Cheyenne Bays may have some promise, but there are some very, very evident holes in your game. At the same time, though, if you're going to threaten a fighter who you just lost to, you're going to follow them home. All right, you have my attention. Anyways, getting to the actual relevant part of this breakdown, I think these are two very low-level fighters that will not put out the best fight. I think that it's women MMA, so you never know what's going to happen. I am surprised to see Cheyenne Bays favored as much as she is. Now, I know DePaula is not some insane UFC fighter, but she's in the UFC for a reason. I think that Cheyenne Bays has striking advantage. I think that on her previous tape, her grappling looked okay, but you can't look past that scarf hold that happened for 15 minutes in what has to be one of the most iconic moments of all time. Pretty much, I was watching that fight with my roommates, and we just stared at the tattoos on Montserrat Ruiz's legs the whole time. It's just like,
minus 400 favorite,
minus 400 favorite,
getting ragged.
You know what, man? That night, I was sitting there with a buddy and a buddy's girlfriend, and the buddy's girlfriend said that girl's gonna win. So I laid money on the plus 350 for Ruiz, and it was the most entertaining fight of my life. It was the funniest story. Anyways, I think that Cheyenne Bays does pull through in a striking advantage. I think she wins a very sloppy decision, but if DePaula is smart, she takes her down, grabs her in a scarf hold, and you'll never see the end of it. No, I hope that fight does light a fire underneath Cheyenne Bays to work on her grappling, because I think she does have a decent upside to her maybe. And I am picking her to win this fight, but I will be fading her in the future, 100%.
Interesting. So, you know how we're chatting pre-stream about how one of these plays you're going to raise an eyebrow to?
Yep.
This is one of them.
If you do
I
it
like
too. Who?
Cheyenne Bays here. I'm telling you right now. I'm going to tell you why. I think Cheyenne Bays is actually a pretty good prospect. All right. In this fight, I think it very much favors her. Right. So I'm gonna go through what I have here. So
Wait.
I
Before you do. Did you lay like minus 190, minus 200?
I did not. I did not. I haven't even.
Okay.
I haven't bet it yet. I'm waiting for it to come down
Okay.
a little bit more.
Wait for it to come down. Because with all, wherever, even if she wins this weekend, I think that anybody who placed a bet on Cheyenne Buys at minus 200
Yeah,
needs a little bit of
minus
addiction
200.
therapy.
Minus 200 is a little bit steep, but I'm telling you
Okay,
right
carry on.
now, I think Cheyenne Bays is got this fight. I think that Cheyenne Bays is actually a pretty good prospect. I think that obviously last fight very, very embarrassing. However, we do have to recognize that if that fight did not happen, and I understand it did, then Cheyenne Bays would probably be a much bigger favorite here. And I also think that Gloria DePaula is not gonna take down Cheyenne Bays and just scarfold her for 15 minutes. Like, it's just not gonna happen. I mean, Gloria DePaula, I don't even think she's attempted a takedown in her life. So I think in terms of the wrestling and the grappling, that Cheyenne Bays has a big advantage here. I think she's not the greatest wrestler, but I think she has some decent offensive wrestling. I think she has some decent ground and pound. And I think that her boxing and her hands are much better. I think that she has really good combinations. She has fast hands, does a good job of ending the combinations with a high kick. As I said, she has some good ground and pound she can get on top. She's very high volume. And I think she puts on good center pressure. So the way I see this fight going personally is I think that Cheyenne Bays is going to take the center of the octagon. I think that she's going to be the one throwing more volume, landing more at a higher clip. And I think that she can mix in her wrestling. I think she can take down Gloria DePaula. I mean, we just saw how easy it is to take down Gloria DePaula against Fry. Like, really no resistance off her back. She was controlled for 4+ minutes each round. So Jinyu Fry's not the best wrestler in the world. I guess she has some decent top control, but I feel like that fight made Fry's wrestling and top control look much better than it actually is. And I just think that Cheyenne Bays is one of those fighters that really took a lot of embarrassment to that loss. I mean, the way she comes off and the way she is, she's just a really intense, aggressive fighter. And I think that was embarrassing for her. And I think that definitely lit a fire under her to get in the gym and start training. And I find a really hard time to believe that she's going to drop her first 2 fights. And especially in a fight like this, I don't really see where Gloria DePaula has an advantage over Cheyenne Bays, besides maybe like if it stays at kickboxing range and she lands the kicks. Now, I'm not saying like Cheyenne Bays is going to like dominate her. I just think Cheyenne Bays is going to outland her by double-digit strikes each and every round. I think that she can utilize her wrestling and put Gloria on her back if she wanted to. If Cheyenne Bays comes in with the right game plan, Cheyenne Bays is probably going to look like minus 300 if I'm being frank. And I just think that as much as we want to criticize the Montserrat Ruiz fight, which we should, it's embarrassing and it's a very bad look for Cheyenne Bays. That's just not the same stylistic matchup in this fight, like at all. So I think Cheyenne Bays I think she's a good fighter. I mean, I think she is. I think she was just out muscled, out strength, and I just think she couldn't really get out of that, which is pretty bad. But I think that in a stand up fight, like I feel like she's pretty tough girl to beat. I mean, like her hands are good. She throws hard. I don't mean she has power, but like she puts things into her punches and she puts together good combinations. So I'm going to take Cheyenne Bays here. I personally capped her at the minus 200 range, so I'm waiting for the line to come down a little bit more. And I'm probably going to play her. I mean, I like her here, and I just think that she wins this fight. I just don't think Gloria DePaula is that great of a fighter. I mean, she's got good kickboxing, and she has decent striking. But I mean, another thing I want to point out is when Jinyu Fry was throwing when Jinyu Fry was throwing back, she was landing. I mean, Fry was landing. Again, we talked about this earlier. Fry doesn't really throw too much volume, but when she was landing on Gloria DePaula, and I just think Cheyenne Bays is not going to be the same as Jin Yu Fry. Like she's gonna get in your face. Cheyenne Bays is gonna get in your face. She's gonna put a pace on you. She's gonna put pressure on. She's got good cardio, and I just think that if she mixes in the wrestling, that she's gonna look minus 300. And I like Cheyenne Bays here, man. I'm
You know
telling you.
what? As much as I like to laugh about it, and it is a meme, Cheyenne Bays was minus 400 or whatever she was for a reason. And she is a great talent. And if that never happened, she would be, like you said, minus 600. She wouldn't have been facing Gloria DePaula because she would have been on a such higher level. And that's what I'm trying to
Yeah,
say here is this is a bounce back fight for her. And I can make fun of her as much as I want. But
with
she
reason.
is the rightful favorite in this fight. She's got so many different things, and like I said before, like lighting a fire under her, especially after that loss, is something that is very plausible here. I think that she is going to win this fight. When you were talking, I think that plus 450 to finish is a good like half a unit sprinkle if you want to throw in a Hail Mary or something like that, because I don't think she does, but I
Yeah,
think that if she's hungry enough to tell a fighter that she's gonna follow them home, she might be hungry enough to finish a girl like Gloria DePaula, especially if she gets that top control time. So
yeah. Like
I don't hate it. I don't hate it.
that's the thing with Gloria DePaula is like, I mean, even if you look at I went back and watched the fight with Isabel de Padua, like she got controlled easily on the mat. I mean, like she has really nothing like off of her back like at all, right? So I do think that Bays needs to mix in that to justify her what I'm saying being like minus 200, minus like 230. But I just think on the feet, like Cheyenne Bays, like again, she was minus 400 for a reason. Like, and that fight did happen, and we have to recognize that fight did happen and that she lost that fight. But the difference between losing the fight that she just lost compared to like the Korean Zombie losing to Ortega and then like not taking that fight into consideration is that this is completely different. I mean, what happened to her? I would honestly say there's a less than 1% chance that happens again. Like Gloria DePaula has never shot a takedown. She's not that. So this is going to be a stand-up fight if that's how if Gloria DePaula decides how this fight goes, and I think Cheyenne Bays is the better striker. Definitely the better boxer. Like if she gets in her face and gets in boxing range, which she's going to, she walks you down and she throws punches. I just don't really see how Gloria DePaula is going to have an answer for the volume and for the pressure, especially not having like having any grappling in your back pocket. So I'm going to play Cheyenne Bays here, and I might get some. Oh my God, you're playing Cheyenne Bays at minus 170 after last time, but I like Cheyenne Bays here, and I trust her to get this done. Bounce
So what are you
back.
doing? Playing her straight for a couple
Yeah,
units,
because
or
I'm gonna probably play like 1.7 units at minus 170 if it comes down. I mean, right now it's at like I think minus 172. I'm being stingy about it. Yeah, minus 172, minus 175. I'll play that if it doesn't come down, but I don't really see it getting wider than that. So yeah, I like Cheyenne Bays here. I'm gonna trust her to get it done. I'm not gonna play her by decision because I think she could finish the fight, man. I think she's just one of those fighters that even the way she is, like even in her contender series fight, like she was like to her opponent, like get the fuck up, right? She's saying she's gonna follow Ruiz home. Like she's an intense girl, man, and I think she's gonna come out with something to prove. And I think she's a prospect, man. I do. I like Cheyenne Bays. I do. But move on to the next fight. We got Kyung Ho Kan taking on Ronnie Yaya, and this is another interesting fight that I don't know if I'm excited for or not. But we got Kang, who's 33, 5'9", 73-inch reach, and then Ronnie Yaya, 36, 5'6", 67-inch reach. So Kang is going to be 3 inches taller and 6 inches of reach. Kang is 17-8, 6-2 in the UFC. Currently on a 3-fight win streak, and Ronnie Yaya is 27-10 with a draw and 12-4 in the UFC, also on a 1-fight winning streak, which is crazy. Yeah. Talk to me. What do you got with this one? Because this is an interesting matchup. I want to hear your thoughts on this fight.
this gives me some Claudio Silva, Court McGee vibes. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying Kang's the same thing as Silva. Sorry, as McGee on the mat, because I do think Kang's a pretty good fighter. But it's one of those things where Yaya has a killer on the ground, and that's a fact. Like he's such a good BJJ guy, and he's got some. His wrestling has struggled, but he looked okay his last fight, and he can take blows in the feet, and he can give some back sometime, but he's just nothing special unless he's on the ground. And
Yeah.
I think that what people have learned is if you can stay on the feet and pump out volume, you beat Raya all the time. And I think Kang's exactly the guy to do that. I think the one bet that I'm really struggling to pull a trigger on that I really want to is going to be Kang by decision. I think that Yaya is very durable, but in his strategy because Kang is also a great fighter on the ground. I don't think Kang leaves himself open for a sub. I don't even think Kang lets him get himself taken down. I think that Kang is able to stay on the feet, piece him apart from range, but I think it turns into a very dull, slow-paced fight because Kang's gonna be so wary of that takedown at all times that he's not gonna be able to go full out offense and unleash everything on him. So I think that this is Kang's fight to lose. I think that it does become a decision win, and I'm going to pick him here, and I might place a bet on it later in the week. But for right now, I'm just gonna watch it because if I do have that bet on Kang, I'm gonna sweat it out if it does get to the ground.
Yeah, I agreed. I mean, I don't really got much more to add. I mean, you touched on everything that I saw too. I just think that the biggest advantage King has in this fight is the size. I mean,
Oh yeah, he's huge.
he's a big bantamweight, and the fact that he's 6 inches of reach, 3 inches of height. I just think that it's going to be tough for Ronnie Yaya to get his hands on him, and Kang is just much more athletic. I feel like it's going to be hard to get him down and hold him down. Plus, he's good on the ground as well. So, I think he knows that Ronnie Yaya is very dangerous on the ground, and I think if this fight is on the feet, I think Renate Kang statistically throws out more volume. I think he's the better technical striker. I think Yaya is okay. I mean, he's got a good right hand, but other than that, doesn't really throw too much combos or any volume. So I think Kang, if he fights smart, I think he just keeps it on the feet, just pops out that jab, just uses that length, uses that size to keep Ronnie away from him, and I think he gets a decision here as well. But I'm not going to bet it because something feels weird about this fight. I feel like maybe Ronnie Yaya just finds a way to get it done. But
I think the only reason I haven't betted is because of my love for the grapplers. But in this case, I think that the striker gets the edge here. Kang has some pretty good takedown defense, and he's got a ton of wins by submission as well. So it's one of those things where I think he's got enough knowledge not to be put in any of those situations by Yaya and just stay on the feet.
agreed. So we will close it up.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry.
We will close this up with the main event of the evening. We got Sean Strickland taking on Uriah Hall. Sean Strickland, 30 years old, 6'1", 76-inch reach. Uriah Hall, 36 years old, 6 feet, 79-inch reach. So Strickland's going to be 6 years younger. Hall's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage. So Sean Strickland is 23-3, 10-3 in the UFC on a 4-fight win streak. And Uriah Hall is 17-9, 10-7 in the UFC, also on a 4-fight winning streak. And to me, this fight really isn't that complicated. I just think that Sean Strickland's going to largely be the minute winner. I think he throws more volume. He's going to be the one walking forward. I think he's going to land more. But Uriah Hall's always live to get that KO. I mean, the guy's just a finisher, man. Like, he just finishes fights when he's losing. And I don't really think Uriah Hall is honestly that good, especially now at this point in his career. Like, just looking at his like recent wins and stuff, like, they're really not impressive. I mean, he broke Chris Weidman's leg. I mean, can't really talk about much about that. He beat Anderson Silva in a fight that he was probably losing, and he was losing the first 2 rounds. He beat Antonio Carlos Jr. in a really ugly fight. He beat Bavon Lewis in a fight he was losing. He actually did look really good against Paulo Costa. But this is just a guy that, right? It's just he's not going to be winning minutes. I mean, I don't really see how you can. I mean, if you're gonna play Hall, I just don't see why you wouldn't take him by KO. It's just I don't really see how he wins the fight any other way unless he gets like 3 knockdowns in like 3 rounds and wins a decision. But Sean Strickland, he's a good striker. He's a good boxer. Right? He gets close and he just sticks to the basics, sticks to the fundamentals. He's not flashy. I think he's got a pretty decent chin on him as well. And I don't expect any grappling in this fight. I just think Sean Strickland's going to walk him down, throw more volume, land more, and then Uriah Hall's always live to get that KO. And that's why I don't want to lay Strickland minus 210. I think that Hall could definitely get that KO. I mean, I think Sean Strickland's being a little bit kind of overhyped. I mean, I know the guy's pretty good, but I don't really think he's like a future like top contender or challenger. But I do think he's better than Uriah Hall. I mean, Uriah Hall is really nothing special besides his freak finishing ability, but he's patient, he waits, and the fact he's got 5 rounds too gives him an extra 2 rounds to find that KO. So just not a fight I'm interested in targeting from either standpoint, but I think Strickland's the rightful favorite, and I think as long as he avoids the KO, he gets the job done. And I'm gonna pick him by TKO. I think he gets him out of there late. Just keeps landing, and eventually Hall just has enough. But he could definitely win the decision.
Yeah, it's one of these things where Strickland's win streak is completely different to Uriah Hall's win streak. I think Uriah Hall is a bit overrated in the division.
I agree, man.
That fight versus Anderson Silva was
46, man.
Yeah, and then you look at that last. He didn't beat Chris Weidman. He just outlasted Chris Weidman. So I think that I actually picked Chris Weidman to win that fight. So
pretty much all of us did. I mean, I think Chris Weidman would have won that fight for sure.
It's one of these things where Strickland is great at what he does. And I think that when it comes to a fighter who's able to contrast what he does, take him down a bit, wrestle him, keep him at range and not let him come in with his boxing, he'll have some troubles. But the way it is right now is Uriah Hall's not going to be the guy to do that. Uriah Hall's going to be looking there for that one bomb. That one bomb's going to put him away. And Strickland's not going to let him have it. Strickland is an in the gym too. I've seen all those clips of him sparring with people and leaving them bloody, and I love the way he was talking in a couple fights ago. And he's just a character. But the thing is, no matter how much of a character he is, he's good at what he does. Walks people down. He lands at such a good accuracy, at such a good clip. He's just a great striker, and you got to give him credit for it. And like you said it perfectly. He's the minute winner in this, and I don't see Hall finishing him, so it's going to be Strickland all day. The one thing that does bother me a bit is Strickland is, 9.3K on DraftKings, something like that. And Uriah Hall is 6.9K, which is an insanely good punt play, because if he does win, it will be by KO, and that will hit optimal. And at the top end of the price range there, I'm not going to pay for Strickland at 9.3K when I can easily get Rafa at 9.4 or Barberena at 9.5, right? Like, there's so many different options up there. It's just a tough one to call. I do see Strickland winning it. I know certain books have like that round 4 or 5 or decision prop. I think that one's awesome. I think it's Strickland's fight to win. I think it'll be a decent one. I think it'll be very technical for the first few rounds until they find their range. But I do think Uriah Hall's going to be way too patient trying to find that knockout blow, and it's just not going to come.
Yeah, I agree. So, yeah, that's the card. So just to run through the bets, I've got 5. 4, maybe 5, maybe 6. So the 4 I have locked is Rafa Garcia minus 250, 4 units, and Rafa Garcia inside the distance plus 162, 0.6 units. I'm relying on Rafa, man. I think if Chris gets it done, man, like, fair play. If the 35-year-old guy who fights every blue moon, and just isn't that good, beats a 26-year-old guy that everyone was impressed with against Nasrat, then so be it. But I'm relying on him. He's got to get it done.
It's almost like you saying, "Oh, if Phil Haas gets cardio."
Stop. Phil Haas just spontaneously decided to get better cardio than Dawkins, man. Like,
carry on.
Okay, but at least Phil Haas with Imavov beating Heinisch, that win looks a lot better. So maybe Phil Haas is legit, but if Chris Gutzmacher somehow is legit now, then fair play to Chris Gutzmacher. But I like Rafa Garcia. I have 1 unit on Phil Rowe plus 150. I like that dog spot. Just don't think that line should be that wide. I think it's a very close fight, 50-50 fight. If anything, I edge it to Rowe. And then I have 1.75 units at minus 135 on Ronnie Lawrence. Again, just I like him. I think he's the minute winner, and I think he's that chain grappling is going to put a lot of pressure on Trevin and not let him get into his rhythm. So those are my bets. And then the 2 potential ones I might add are Cheyenne Bays. Well, I will add that one. Cheyenne Bays minus 170 when I can get it. And I might actually play the Melsick Anglin doesn't go to decision if plus money comes to it, because I just missed that. I mean, I have it here as a potential play, but I guess I just didn't check the line. I would have played that at plus money, so maybe if it comes back, I'll play it. But yeah, those are my plays for this weekend.
I got the same one right there. So I got the fight doesn't go to decision at plus 105. I think I have locked in. I really like that spot. I do have plus 150 on Rafa Garcia inside the distance, and then I do have the plus 170 on Philip Rowe as well. So give me that. I do want to play Benoit if he looks good on the scale. I do want to play Ronnie Lawrence. It's hard without Amanda Nunes there anymore. So I do need to find my parlay piece. Could be Strickland. Could be Barbarena, could be Montano, could be Cheyenne Bays. The way you're talking me into it, no, I'm not going to be Cheyenne Bays.
Base gang.
Yeah, I do. I don't mind Montano as a parlay piece. Barbarena at first round could be a nice little Hail Mary shot as well. But the big thing is, I want to see how Benoit looks this weekend on the scales, or tomorrow on the scales, actually.
Yeah. So yeah, guys, that's going to be the card. I mean, it's not the greatest card on paper, but I mean, I think a lot of these fights could end inside the distance. So maybe get some violence. But yeah, always a pleasure to have my boy Gordo on, talk the fights, and yeah, we will see you back for UFC 265 next week. Probably going to do a main event breakdown on that one in a couple days. But yeah, take it away. Shout out your YouTube, your Twitter. Let the people know where they can find you.
Yeah, brand new YouTube back out there. Plays and Fades Sports on YouTube. DFS breakdown for every single UFC card. We have gone ham the past few weeks. We've done so well. Find us there too for our locked in bets or on Twitter at Gordo Gambles. Yeah, next week, man, I'll have you on. How about you come on to my my YouTube channel and hang out with me to break down some DFS. We'll host a nice little a contest in your honor, just like we did for the last big UFC card. I'm happy to have you back, my friend. It's a pleasure as always. You know what? Go Cheyenne Bays is all I got to say.
Go Cheyenne Bays, man. Cheyenne Bays, I'm telling you right now, Cheyenne Bays 2024 UFC strawweight champion of the world.
Cheyenne Bays is Bay.
Cheyenne Bays is my girl, bro. That's it. We'll see you guys next time. Leave a like, subscribe, and peace.
Adios. You just leave. How do I end the show? He just left the studio without even ending the live stream. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is mine now.
Peace.